Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Bakes in a Box, the podcast where we talk about baking, business, and being functional adults, even when we don't want to.
This podcast gives you fly-on-the-wall access to conversations that two busy entrepreneurs would have on a regular basis. A little bit of whinging, a little bit of whining, and also some helpful tidbits to use on your baking journey.
Find out how two best friends ended up running businesses just down the street from each other. From baking and making the things we love to how to navigate the cutthroat wedding industry. We cover it all.
It's time for another episode of Bakes in a Box. Let's get into it. We don't talk about this enough, but it feels really important to say ABR, always be recording. Just like my favorite podcast / the only podcast that I listen to really on a regular and consistent basis. And see, now our waves are so much louder.
They are so much louder.
We're figuring this out. What are we? Episode 5? That's it. We've done 5 of these.
I feel like we've done a lot more than 5 episodes.
No. I was genuinely listening back when we were doing setup and we're like, we can do 2 of these a day.
Oh, no.
Delusions. There's nobody I'd rather be delusional with than you, Jess.
Oh, same, babe.
Yeah, I love that for us. Okay, so Jess and I were talking off air, even though I say ABR, we were not ABRing. We've had a lot of conversations already this morning that we're not
I've been here for a full hour before we started doing this.
Oh my gosh, it's true. And I actually do have a meeting at 11. Anyway,
it's okay. We're going to be on time today.
We always talk about what we have to do after this, and we never behave like we have anything to do after this.
I'm just lounging on your couch, drinking coffee,
playing with Iggy. Yeah, no, it's great.
Our ambassador of Bakes in a Box.
Oh my gosh, I friggin' wish Ignatius would never sit still enough to be an ambassador for anything, and it makes me upset. It makes me upset. I want him to pose for cute photos, and he's constantly in motion, unless you like interrupt him licking his butt, and then he's like, "Excuse
I'll freeze
me
now and look you dead in the eye as my butt is up in the air."
And like, you don't like looking at this? You don't like looking at this? And you're like, I actually don't, Ignatius. I actually don't. Jess and I were talking about the fact that yes, we have started posting parts of our podcast, which is crazy to me. We did our first episode that was at the KPL, the producer sessions. I have no problem giving them as much exposure as possible. 1, because my friend Samantha runs that program. And 2, because what an opportunity it was for us to be at the Hefner Studios and to use all of their equipment. And it really allowed us to be set up for success here, I think. Maybe I'm biased, but it allowed us to know what we wanted to sound like, the kinds of mics that we wanted to use, the fact that we needed an audio interface, not needed, wanted to have an audio interface because then we could use XLR cables, which are more consistent and provide better audio quality than USB cables. Anyway, boring, everybody. Please don't leave. Please don't leave. I'll stop. But that was really fun to edit because we were talking all about our crime scene kitchen contract, which we're allowed to do together, but we obviously can't do with you. So if you're like listening to that episode and you're like, my goodness, there's a lot of jumping around that happens in this podcast. Not usually. It was actually like a 45-minute or a 50-minute recording, and it's 21 minutes.
In order not to be fined and sued,
yes,
we had to cut out all that information.
We did not want to breach our contracts. It was not worth it to us to give you the juicy details. I think the sum up when I was like, give us your baby soul. Give us your baby's baby soul.
Baby's baby soul.
Yeah, tell your mother we want her. So yeah, I forgot that I had done that, but I'm very on brand.
very on brand for us and how we felt in the situation. So
yeah, it's fine. We signed it. Obvi, we appeared on the show. We signed it.
We do hope that people are, watching that show, and we would love to hear what you guys think. And if you have any questions for us,
embarrassing.
Gosh, our phone's going off, you guys.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. This is real life. This is real life. We're not pretending that we also don't have to. My phone has to be up in case of emergencies at work. I have staff that are at the shop right now holding down the fort, so I need to make sure that I'm accessible. And same thing with Lenore. We can never turn it off. But if you do have any questions or, thoughts about the episodes, we would love to hear what you think.
Yeah.
We love to answer your questions. So please send us a DM.
A recent review from a friend who's watched Crime Scene Kitchen. Well done to you and Jessica for a couple of beautiful bakes.
Oh, that is so nice.
Isn't that so sweet? I'm like, we had a good episode despite not winning anything.
It's hard to get to the elimination bake and not be that when they don't declare a winner, because it's like, I feel like we won this, you know, and it just
we always feel like we won.
Yeah, I'm like, I need that I need that. I need somebody to
tell me that I won.
That I did it. Somebody to tell me that I won.
Did you see Yolanda's story?
I did see Yolanda's story, and so Yolanda Gamp was one of the judges on Crime Scene Kitchen, and she shared in her Instagram story about how our bread was the best. It's like, what'd she say? It was like so delicious.
Screenshots.
Oh, you took screenshots? Amazing.
Yeah. This tasted really good. Happy smiling face with the tongue sticking out.
Yes.
And
I love that.
It's us.
And it's us. Yeah, it was
and then
during
the
our judging. Yeah.
There's our bread that she said tasted really good.
Yeah.
Also, not spoiler, behind the scenes, we actually ate that with them.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
They cut us a piece and we were sitting there chewing. They actually cut to us ones where they were giving us feedback and we were both like,
because our mouths were full of delicious bread. And I am sure, I love Yanush and Kieran, but I am sure that if we had done the right shape,
they wouldn't have won.
We would have won that. Yeah. And I was, talking to my parents about this, and I said there's still something in the fact that this is like a partnership, and we each took turns like hearing each other out. I pushed the plum jelly in the first episode that we were on, and you heard me and you said, okay, we will do that. And that was incorrect, but the thing is, just having that feeling of them eating the bread, and we knew it was good, and it was just more of like, we are really good at this.
We are good at this.
And it gave us a lot of confidence going into the second bake, which also I'm really glad we got the chance to do, because that was a kick-ass cake.
Yeah, it was.
So I there's absolutely no regrets there. And I do feel like every time we got a chance to bake, it just made us stronger. Like, I absolutely love, watching us. It can be stressful. And we seem to be getting a lot of really great feedback from people that are watching us on Reddit and things like that.
I'm about to read something off of Reddit.
Look at that little segue.
The UK guys won because they were closer to the shape. Had Lenore and Jessica done a star, they would have won. They had the correct cheese. I didn't even realize that you and Karen didn't put cheese in theirs.
I thought they did.
That's what I thought too. But what other cheese would they have used other than Parmesan? Maybe this Redditor's wrong. Who knows? We love reading on Reddit. There are other contestants who have made Reddit accounts to interact with y'all. We've not done that.
I just creep. I just watch what people are doing. I don't say anything.
I think the best. Okay, so when Jess and I were in the hotel in Toronto, all of the things that I'm going to tell you about Crime Scene Kitchen, I've made sure that other people have said them first.
I love that. Just want to make sure it's safe.
Yeah. I can't get in trouble because so-and-so did it first. And I obviously assumed that it was fine. So I'm just piling on to information you can already find out there. But there was an article written in Collider that specified that they were in Toronto and at the CBC studios. So I can say that,
perfect.
Right?
Yeah, cool. Absolutely.
So we stayed at a hotel nearby. We had breakfast provided for us every morning in the form of a breakfast buffet. Every morning for breakfast, Jess and I had basically the same thing.
Yes. We did.
Scrambled eggs, topped with shredded cheddar cheese, salsa.
Every morning.
Sometimes a little bit of potatoes, if they had them.
A little bit of potatoes.
Like little home fry situations. Yeah. Or sometimes they had little hash brown patties.
Those were yum.
And we would get those. No meat. I mean, if they had the turkey sauce, which I was down.
Yeah, I don't trust. I'm like, how old is this meat? And how long has it been sitting out here?
The bacon was also
skip it.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes they had, no. I didn't like the turkey sausage. I only liked the pork sausage. The turkey sausage looked crazy. I was not going to eat that. And they had other things that were meaty. No, that was it. Ham? Did they ever have ham?
Not that I can recall.
That would have been such an easy thing and so delicious.
Yeah.
We chose not to make it. Anyway, we'd eat that. And then a bagel or some kind of bread. Toasted bagel with cream cheese and a jelly. They only had strawberry to start.
But I wasn't mad at it. And then they brought the grape. Ooh. All day long.
Grape jelly. So exciting. And on our days off, we'd still have breakfast together on our days off. We would get cereal.
Fruit Loops.
Because we knew that we didn't have to be anywhere.
Yeah.
We didn't have to go anywhere.
Take our time.
No, bloated, would it matter?
No.
Farty, would it matter?
No.
I need to lie down a little bit because my tummy's cramping because I had dairy. Wouldn't matter. They never had cheese. Now that I think about it, there was never cheese. Cheese was never an option besides cream cheese. Oh, sometimes there would be yogurt.
Yeah, sometimes there would be yogurt.
I'm talking about those little blocks of black diamond.
I was just like,
cheeses. We had cheese. We ate cheese every morning.
They had shredded cheese, but those little Cracker Barrel little packaged cheeses. I would have grabbed handfuls of those.
Oh boy, my pockets would have been full
of cheese.
Full of cheese.
Full of cheese.
Sometimes we'd eat fruit. I would never eat a banana, but I would eat an apple.
Yeah, the only options that they had for fruit were apples and bananas. Bananas. Two of the fruits that I'm not a fan of. Yeah. I mean, I like bananas, but they have to be baked in banana bread or banana cake. Then I like it. Or a banana cream pie. I'll eat that.
What about if you're feeling sad and you make a white bread sandwich with Nutella and slices of banana?
See, again, there's enough going on there that's but just to eat a banana,
yeah,
I can't do it. The film it leaves on my mouth.
Only
I don't
if
enjoy
it's starchy, but if they're the perfect ripeness, which is rare, I will say it is rare. Mm-hmm. If they're the perfect ripeness, then you'd be fine. Did you not love that our cleaner would always leave us those apple blossom Portman cookies?
That was so sweet. That was so sweet. We had a cleaner that would always leave us these little cookies. I didn't eat any of them. I just put them all in my bag I brought them home. Yep, I brought them home for my son and he ate them.
Yep, James ate them.
But I was just like, this is the sweetest. Yeah. This is just a nice, just being taken care of was just a lovely feeling.
Yeah.
But that was, how we started our day. And
same thing every day. Not even because of superstition. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, oh, if I eat something different, like it was just, what are we going to eat today? Well, we always know they're going to have scrambled eggs. Ooh, there was one time that those scrambled eggs were.
They did not look right.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I think we did skip eggs that day and then we're like, I'm going to starve. We're going to starve the rest of the day. No protein. I don't understand. But it happens. And there's nothing that we can do about that. Mm-hmm.
But that's how we would, start our day before we went on to the show. And we would also sit there and just give each other pep talks as well as to let's go on this show and let's just be ourselves and have some fun. I think that's always what we said. Let's have some fun.
Breathe, smile, and remember that you're having fun. Breathe, smile, and remember that you're having fun.
Now, we sang that in an interview
on
the show.
I think it already
wonder
happened.
If they're going to share it.
Did it not already happen? Was it not this episode?
So. No.
When did I make Joel smell the gelatin? Oh, that might be upcoming.
That might be upcoming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, scary.
Smell it.
Smell that. Oh, what is that? Yeah, it's gelatin. Ground up horse hooves and sinew. You're welcome.
Enjoy.
In case you've never smelled unflavored gelatin, it smells like ground up animal bones because that's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it stinks. But sometimes you need it. Mm-hmm. I don't know why we put gelatin in anything because it's not like we would have had time for it to actually stabilize to its full potential.
I know. I think, again, it was one of those things. It was in the crime scene kitchen, so we're going to use it. So.
Oh, what was the funny thing that we didn't even realize? Apparently, we were the first ones to get our mousse in the.
We were, and I love that. Again,
I didn't
that's
know
another
that.
thing. Like when you are in these kitchens, which I'm sure people can see when they kind of do a pan back of all the kitchens, we can't. Obviously, it would defeat the point of the show, but we can't see into other people's kitchens, and most of the time. You can't hear them either. Like it's pretty good with how high those walls are, so you can't hear anything. Sometimes you can smell things as to what happened in the bread episode.
Yep.
But I think that happened because literally everybody but that one team was making something savory with the basil.
Yeah.
So it was very easy to smell it and detect it. But you're very much cut off, and you're not allowed to talk to the other contestants either. So you have no idea.
Nope.
How they did or what they did. So yeah, hearing that I cheered for us. I'm like, yes.
I was so proud.
But that's another thing. Like we knew, like we have to get this in right away.
Yeah.
Because we knew that it needed as much chilling time as possible.
But there's also a trick with mousse, and like I don't know if anybody else did that because I saw some folks pouring their mousses, and I was like,
it's runny.
Oh man, your mousses are liquidy.
Yeah.
You add especially with a fruit mousse, right? Mm-hmm. First of all, only heat up half of your puree. Don't heat the whole thing. You want it to cool down anyway. Your gelatin only needs to be warm, like 60 degrees max, right? Heat up half your puree. Put your gelatin in that in order to dissolve it. Then put your hot puree in with the other half of your cold puree. Then put that bad boy in the fridge. Mm-hmm. Get it in the fridge. Don't worry about your whipped cream. It's fine. Get your base as like cold as possible, like 35 degrees or something. Mm-hmm. And then fold in your just past soft peak maximum volume whipped cream that's been in the fridge, because then that bad boy is cold too, like 4 degrees. Combining your 35 degree fruit base with your 4 degree cream means that you have a very thick, already beginning to stabilize mousse that once you pour it into your mold, it's gonna set up like that. It'll be no problem at all. I don't think people did that.
No,
because seeing what I was seeing.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to pour it like that. It's like it should be. It's a scooping kind of spread situation. That way you're chilling at all steps so that it's already nice and cold. Like obviously you don't want it completely firm, but it definitely saves time. And that's the thing, I think, from working in the industry where, tips and tricks that you've had to learn as to how can I be as efficient with this as possible. It really helped us in that episode for sure.
I think I was telling Jess the last time that I had made strawberry mousse was Mother's Day 2020, which was our first. No, it wasn't our first major holiday. I guess we had done Easter, but Mother's Day was like a second big holiday. And for some reason, we had like a huge spike in not popularity, awareness.
Yeah.
Before that, people didn't know that we existed. Like we didn't advertise. We didn't have a big like opening day sort of situation. Like none of that. Like Andrew Coppolino mentioned on the radio on the Saturday that we were opening. We opened Valentine's Day weekend, but then it was also straight into Family Day. And we were going to be open on Family Day.
Oh,
just as like an opportunity for people to come by. And so he announced that. So some people knew about us. Then the pandemic happened. There were lines down the street. More people knew about us. So Mother's Day, everyone, and we had an online shop for Mother's Day. And so lovingly, as a Midtown community they took the opportunity to support us. And we were so grateful, except I was doing everything alone and was overwhelmed. And it was like I stayed up all night, and it was the Saturday of Mother's Day weekend, and we were about to open, maybe an hour before open. My sister-in-law was there, and she was going to help serve through the window because we were still serving through the window. And I'm putting together these customized boxes. Why did I think that was a good idea? You could go on, you could choose the brand you wanted, you could choose the macaron flavors that you wanted, you could choose your squares, you could choose your cookies. Dumb. I hated it. Made a big mistake. Anyway, we don't offer that anymore, thank goodness. And I had to make these. I'm like, I've done the chocolate mousse, but I haven't made the strawberry mousse yet. I'd made the basil panna cotta because it was basil panna cotta at the bottom, strawberry mousse on top. And I had to make the strawberry mousse, and I had to make the strawberry gelée. And the last time I made strawberry mousse was on that day, and it was me crying while folding whipped cream into the strawberry mousse.
A little bit of tears in there.
No. They didn't fall in. They didn't fall in. But it was the last time that I made that mousse. And so making it again on the show, I was just like, this is traumatic. This is dramatic on many, many fronts, but it's actually like one of my favorite mousse recipes, and it does taste like strawberry ice cream. And as Yolanda said, it's light, but it has structure.
It's structure. I love when she turned that fork over
upside down. I was like, yes! It was the happiest I'd been in a long, long time.
I love that I saved that ribbon. I still have it.
I know, in your pocket. It was so good. I loved that moment. There are just like all these little things that we did that we wouldn't have thought about or wouldn't have realized that it would have meant so much.
Looking back,
looking back, but like boy oh boy, what a memento, Loved it. We should have stole more of our note sheets out of the binders, and we didn't. We should have stole each and every one of them. We didn't do it. We only remember that one time.
There's one thing you don't really see is us, making full notes and sometimes drawings as to what we want to make sure we're both on the same page and we're as prepared as possible.
Speaking of same page, what about let's say it at the same time. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Charlotte Russe. I was so confident that we were both going to say, and technically we were still very close. I was so excited running into that kitchen. I was so excited because for the first time being on that show, I'm like, I feel like I 100% know what it is. And that was an amazing feeling.
I feel like it was a turning point for you because really a lot of the other times I was like, it's this. And I think it's this. And you're like, okay. But it's crazy because Jess and I split the kitchen, right? We split the kitchen and we never really knew what the other saw. Because it was very rare that we would get done our side of the kitchen and meet at the island and have time to go about and see what else was around in the kitchen. Unless we were like getting to the island, we're like, I have no idea. And we're like desperate. And then we're running to the other side of the kitchen to like see if anything on the other side will spark our interest. And so a lot of the times it was like, wait, before we say anything to anybody, we have to make a list of all the things that we saw. So coming into the kitchen and having just being like, I think we both know what it is. I think we both know what it is.
We didn't even open the binder yet because I was just like, I don't need this binder. Get this binder the hell out of here.
We don't need to write anything down because we're going to be on the same page. Like just like, let's say it together. And we said, not the same thing.
But very close close enough.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough. Oh my gosh. What a riot.
Yeah.
It's actually just been so much fun.
Yes.
And it's only been 2 episodes and we have at least 1 episode yet to come. We can't tell you anything besides that. Mm-hmm. Is this next one the one where all the bad things happened?
I think so. Okay. The next episode is going to be insane. So next week we are going to be talking about more about the crime scene kitchen. Yeah. So again, like I mentioned earlier, if you guys have any questions or comments, we will be sharing those questions and we'll be chatting about that in our next episode. So make sure you send it our way.
Late inquiries are still
late inquiries. Yeah, because by the time that episode comes out.
Yeah. Very this.
I will be, posting a lot more on our Instagram and asking people questions there. So please,
feel free to engage with
us. We would love to hear from you. And again, things that you would like to hear us talk about, make sure you send that our way. But this episode, we're going to go a little bit into the pandemic, which Lenore already talked a little bit about.
I sure did. It was a little foreshadow. You're welcome. Mm-hmm. You're welcome for the foreshadow. Jessica, where were you and what were you doing March 16th, 2020?
So March 16th, 2020, I was 3 months pregnant, but I was working for Yvonne and Rob at the Kickbox still. We have been discussing the takeover. That sounds so hostile takeover. But just the transfer of the business to myself. But being pregnant, I knew that I was going to be going on to maternity leave. So we were putting that on hold. But we were dealing with the pandemic, which was completely uprooting everybody's lives. As we can all recall, most of us have blacked out, I'm sure. In order to continue existing. But the entire business had to shift. Weddings were being canceled left, right, and center, or just rescheduled. Birthday parties, huge orders and income.
It's only going to be 2 weeks, so let's push out.
That was
2 weeks.
Yeah, that was a really hard thing, is basically trying to exist and carry on this business a week at a time as to what will next week look like.
Yeah.
But the business had to be completely altered. I lied. I wasn't. Wait, where was I?
Wait, was the whole thing a lie?
The whole thing was a lie. No, yeah, that's right. I was pregnant. I was still there.
Okay. Oh, okay. Lord, she didn't lie. Not only can you not remember your birth.
Was born September 2020. Yeah, that's right. Wow. Yeah, honestly, I feel like I did black out a lot of it. Sometimes when people talk about the pandemic, I'm like, what do you... I can't think about that right now. I can't go back, but everything had to be uprooted. And how is this business going to continue? Yeah. We were still in every single day. There were a lot of food service industries that were no longer able to continue because they couldn't have people in. There was no more restaurants. There was no more sit down. People were existing on DoorDash. Yeah. Which did keep a lot of businesses alive.
Did y'all pivot to DoorDash?
We didn't pivot to DoorDash. Instead, what happened was we were doing these, I can't remember who was helping with it, but it was a pay it forward where people would order 6 cupcakes and we would hand deliver 6 cupcakes to people. Wow. It was intense. It was
around the entire region.
Around the entire region. We were delivering 6 boxes of cupcakes, and it would be, oh, this person sent you 6 cupcakes. Why don't you do that to somebody else? And there was a huge support system from the community for the business, as well as people just trying to make everyone else's day a little bit better with some cupcakes. But there were some days where we were delivering to 50 different locations, if not more.
Hectic.
6 cupcakes, but it really helped the business going when we didn't have people coming in, and it was very chaotic.
Yeah, I mean, where was I March 16th? I'm pretty sure, and I don't want to be a liar, but on March 16th, we were open. I think it was a Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I could check, but don't want to. I had just gotten served with a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh my God.
Yeah, so we built our shop, and I signed a contract the previous October with a local contractor. And when I interviewed him for the job, it was between him and a couple of other larger firms. And he was an independent guy. And he was like, yeah, I have all these subcontractors. This is all the work that I've done before. I did this place, this place, this place. He's naming places around the region. And I was like, okay, cool. This like looks like you know what you're doing, or at least have the trades to know what you're doing. This is awesome. And I was like, cool, I would love to work with you. You, right? This individual person. And then he came back and he's like, yeah, I'm actually planning on joining this other business. And like, this is the guy and blah, 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 blah. And I'd had a space and I signed a letter of intent to lease it. And they came and they looked around and he was like, you should come and check out another property that we have that, you know, it's a business that I own. I'm willing to give you a deal on the rent. You should come and check out this space. And I went and looked and it was uptown. Like, you got to go into the building though, and then down the stairs. And it was like down, like next to a nail salon. Like no windows, like nothing. I'm like, also whatever they're using the nail salon, you know how chemically it can smell in there. Yeah. And so I was like, no. And he's like, well, your landlord's there. Like the like what they're asking you to do is insane. I would never ask you to do that. Blah 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 blah. My God, thank goodness I was not swayed by the cheaper rent, because it turns out that these folks were terrible and are horrific. They sent a contract for all the work to be done. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, I want a completion date. I'm like, so I want to edit this contract to put in a completion date of January the 12th. I knew that I was going to be away. I was going on my quote unquote last trip ever to Australia and New Zealand for 5 weeks, I think. And I was going to see some friends and spend Christmas there and all of this. I'm like, it's the last time that I'll be able to do this. I just purchased a brick and mortar. I'm going to open a brick and mortar business. I'm going to have to be home for holidays and travel will be limited and blah, blah, blah. And being on planes was my life at that point. I just, lived around the world and had friends in a million places. So I'm like, I'm going to go and see them because I don't know when I'm going to see them again. Thank goodness I did, because that was December into January 2020. Thank goodness I did. And, I want to hand over a swept clean space on January the 12th, 2020. And I signed it and they signed it. And they even initialed the change as well. And I was like, great. Okay, we're in business. We're doing the dang thing. I got back into the country on the 13th, I think, and then went to the shop on the 14th, and I opened the door and no countertops. They'd not even been ordered. Not done painting. Shelving not done yet. Flooring not done yet. And I'm getting excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse, even though I'd called 7-8 times whilst I was in Australia and New Zealand
to get progress.
How's it
report?
going? Yeah, good. Everything's going great. Meanwhile, they'd done dick all. They'd done nothing. I eventually sent my parents, I'm like, go over there and take a video, walk through the space from beginning to end and show me what progress has been made. And they sent a video, and I called one last time and I said, will you be done? Not will you be done? You better be done. By the time I get home, you have 2 weeks. We'll get it done. No problem. So I come in and obviously I'm pissed that things are not, I'm like, it's said on the contract swept clean and handed over on the 12th. I've given you 2 extra days and you're still not done. We have 30 guys in here working. Yeah, because your shit is late. That's on you. I don't care. We're working overtime. You know what? Because you're out of shape, I think we're just going to pull out and leave. I was like, are you for friggin' real? So whatever, they finish most of the things that they're supposed to do. Most of the things, there's 2 pages, front and back, of lists that I've written down, handwritten, of things that weren't done that needed to be done. And they're like, yeah, we'll come back. We'll come back. When contractors leave, it's almost impossible to get them back. So we're waiting. We're supposed to open the 20th of January. And people are like, oh my gosh, that's an insane turnaround. Yeah, but I had already had all the equipment delivered because everything was supposed to be done. They signed for the equipment. They damaged the equipment, because they're moving it around because the space is not finished. And now they have to shove everything out of the way. All of this shenanigans happened. Whatever. We eventually push, and my dad and I are the ones that end up finishing things and getting friends in to come and help finish things. And we open reluctantly on February 14th because I was going to have to start paying rent. And I have to make money. I can't not make any money. So we open on February 14th with no fanfare. I just unlocked the doors and turned the lights on, took the brown paper down. That's it. That's all we did. And then we started. That was it. We were open, and I needed to drop their check off to them. And so I gave myself a 10% discount off of the total cost because you didn't finish on time. You didn't finish all of the work that needed to be done. And they're like, this is typical. This is the construction industry. They came to my place of business on the 30th of January to yell at me about not paying them on time. They're like, depending on how this conversation goes, will determine whether or not we finish the job at all.
It's absolutely insane to require full payment when you didn't complete all of the work. They didn't
require full payment. So they asked for 70% up front. 70% of their bill up front because I was going to be away because of the timeline. I gave them 70% of their money up front and the balance was 30%. I owed them just 30% remaining. And they came and they thought because they were two strong men. I've never seen my dad yell at another person in my entire life. Your
dad yelled?
Except me.
Oh my goodness.
My dad has only ever yelled at me.
Yeah.
Me and my brother. You know what I mean? But like whatever, we're kids or his kids and he's trying to raise us right. My dad was yelling, how dare you try to blame this on her? And I'm like, Dad, stop. Dad, stop yelling. I'm like, I don't want you to take any of this on. It's fine. I'm like, whatever you need in order to get it done, just come back and get it done. Fine, we'll finish this, we'll tell this, blah, 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 whatever. They did that. They didn't grout. Anyway, doesn't matter. And so I gave myself a 10% discount, which in effect was like, I don't know, $3,200 or something like that. Maybe a little bit more. $60,000 all in, and I asked for a break of like nearly $5,000. I wrote a check and I hand delivered it to the office, and I'm like, and also I want my key back that I gave you. And they're like, we don't have your key. Like, I gave you a key that was required. When I dropped off the check for the 70%, I gave you the key. When I gave you the check for $49,000, I gave you a key. No, we don't have it. I'm like, okay, no problem. And they're like, is this the full amount? I'm like, it's the amount that I'm paying you. And that's all I'll be paying. You didn't finish the job. And I leave the check with them and I walk out shaking, obviously, because I'm like terrible. Then during business hours, the owner's wife and their accounting person came and threw the check down on the counter. The shop has customers in it. I have customers. Throw the check down on the counter. I just want everyone in here to know that she is not paid. My husband did all of this work and she has not paid. I'm like, is that not the money that I paid you that you're throwing back at me? Is it not the money that you're throwing back at me? Well, you needed to pay and she's not paid. And I'm like, you can leave. You can leave or I will call the police.
Yeah, you're trespassing. Get off my property.
Or I will call the police. As she's leaving, 2 middle fingers up the window on the outside. Real mature. I was like, trash. And so they sued me. And apparently you're supposed to put an escrow together for construction trips. All of this stuff that I would never, ever, ever have known because I was not a part of the construction industry. That like a new legislation had just passed and blah, 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 blah. They named the business. They named me personally. They named my landlords who have nothing to do with anything. They're naming all these people in the suit. And I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. This is crazy. Thankfully, I had a friend who's a paralegal and she walked me through everything, blah, 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 blah. That happened. And then they made the announcement that we had to shut. And I was like, the world is ending. My life as I know it is over. I'm being sued for the first and only time in my life for something that was like, I held all of my parts of the bar. You asked for 70%. I paid you. You told me you were going to be done. You weren't. I gave you 3 extra weeks and I lost money because I couldn't open and this, and that, and the other. And I've not asked for any sort of retribution for that. All I want is for you to give me a discount because I had to pay other people to come in and finish your job.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And it's not even a discount. You didn't finish 10% of your work. And so I'm taking that off of my bill because I'm not going to pay you in full for something you did not do. And that was the beginning of the pandemic for me. It had nothing to do with the pandemic. It had nothing to do with the pandemic. So in addition to dealing with the pandemic, in addition to having to pivot to serving outside of the window, in addition to having to figure out this, I also had a part-time job at the college and then we're transitioning to only online learning and then trying to figure all of that out and grading and blah, 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 and everything that is being required of us. And then also having to stand in line in March and in April when it's freezing outside, cold, trying to get flour that everybody and their mom was purchasing in bulk to do God knows what
to
with.
Make banana bread at home.
Trying to run a business. People are rolling out TVs in front of me at Costco. They're just like furious because I can't feel my toes and I can't feel my face and I can't feel my fingertips. And all I want to do is buy eggs and milk so that I can operate the small business so that it won't die on me. And then hearing, the government has money for you. Psych, only if you've been operating for the last 24 months. And I'm like, okay, so no CERB is coming for us. No PPE grants are coming for us. Every glove, every mask, every bottle of hand sanitizer that we made and purchased. I'm buying hand sanitizer for $100 a bottle. I remember doing that. Yep. And it's just like everything is stacked against me at this moment in time, all the while dealing with a lawsuit because there's back and forth between lawyers, and then there's no settlement agreements, and somebody's telling me we can take you on as a client, but it's a $5,000 retainer, and then it's this and it's this and it's this, and I'm like, geez Louise, what's going on? And it's only small claims court because it was less than $30,000. They were suing for like the full balance, which was like 22 something, and then they also wanted this and also. And Riley I will have to put her business, because I don't want to say it wrong. DC Paralegals, I feel like, is what it's called. First of all, a paralegal can deal with anything in small claims court, which I did not know. Did not need to have a lawyer. Second of all, they charge you per piece. You can also do a retainer, but like their rates are significantly lower than a lawyer's, which is helpful. And there's also a lot less red tape. So if you just need something settled quickly, you can just go to them. So DC Paralegals, I believe that's what it's called. I will put Riley's company in the show notes because she deserves all of the publicity, because she saved my butt and helped me not jump in front of moving vehicles. Truly, I was like, like standing on the precipice, because everything that I had wanted, I was getting, but like with an asterisk, right? I really want to open a business and I really want to do this huge build out, and I got the build out, but the last 6 weeks of it was terror. And then I get served with papers, and that's just going to extend the terror. Now there's a pandemic that I'm trying to run a business in, and I'm also trying to live a life in, and I'm sleeping on a couch in the basement because I'm scared that I'm going to kill my parents if I happen to bring COVID back to them, because I'm the only one that's going out to grocery stores because I have to, because of my business. And then how do I get people out, and how can I serve them and make sure that they know that I'm here, and I only just open the doors, and and every sphere of my life is crumbling, and I feel completely alone. And like, there is no relief. Nobody is coming to save me at all. This is just all on me. And like, how do you figure it out? And people are like, oh, like it was just so encouraging. The government was supporting small businesses. No, they weren't. They were not supporting small businesses. They want to lie to you and tell you that they were not. So what do you do when you don't qualify for SEBA, and you don't qualify for CERB, and you don't qualify? I didn't qualify for anything. I was just poor, living in my parents' basement, trying to run a business. That was it. Working all the time. Told my parents I couldn't come to the bakery because I'm like, I just don't want you to be out. Even though the window's open, people are standing, kind of far apart. Nobody was wearing masks at that point because they were like, it's not airborne. Transmitted in the air. Don't worry. And they were like, just get all the masks that you can.
Get all the masks that you can.
Right. And so this is like before that, but then there were certain people outside, and I'm just like, I just don't want it. But like Easter weekend, I had a breakdown. I had to call my parents, and I'm like, I can't wash another dish. I can't scrub another. I can't. I just can't. And they came and were like, it's fine. And then it was like me and my parents for a while. And then eventually we added one person, and we added one more person, and we like slowly grew and transitioned through the pandemic. But all I knew is that I'm like, I just cannot let this business that I've been dreaming about since 2014, all of a sudden I get an opportunity to start it. And I'm like, and what? It's going to just disappear within a year. And I'm left with 6 figures worth of debt because I've just done this incredible build out. Like, the sunk cost of opening a brick and mortar store can never be overinflated. Ever. It costs you so much more money than you think that it is going to. And so we're on business model, double D, whatever. Like, when you go through Excel and they get to A to Z and they start doing like A, B, A, C, and they go all the way through. Then we're like, yeah, we're, iteration 943 at this point, because we just have to keep changing with whatever the rules and regulations and policies and beliefs are at that time, so that we can actually operate our business. And all the while, this turmoil is happening with this lawsuit, this back and forth. And we're like, let's settle. And they're like, no, we're not going to settle. I'm like, you didn't do the work. I look at here.
I have
the
proof
call,
that you did not do the work.
Here are the call logs of the amount of times that I called from New Zealand. Y'all told me nothing was wrong. Here's the video that my parents took on like Boxing Day, and y'all said everything will be fine. It'll all be done in 2 weeks. Don't worry. Here's the phone call. Here's this. I didn't record the phone calls because I didn't think that I had to. But like, nobody calls from the other side of the world 8 times just for shits and gigs and to ask you, how's it going? What's the weather like up there? This is the weather I'm experiencing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the job that you're supposed to be doing. Like, any judge would see that. And so, because of Riley's guidance, she's telling me, like, you should tell them that you'll sue for damages for this and for this and for this and for this if they don't just settle. And it's like, okay, fine. Eventually, and by eventually I mean like December 20 something, just before Christmas, we get a settlement notification. They're willing to settle, and they settle for $700 more than I offered them the first time.
I hope it was worth it for them.
So they didn't give a shit, because they weren't doing anything. They had lawyers taking care of it, and they're like, no matter what, it's basically all on our side, blah, blah, blah. But I'm one person. I'm one person trying to run a whole entire business, trying to figure out what the heck is actually going on. And eventually they settle. So instead of me writing them a check for like $16,111, it's like $16,811 or something like this. And again, I have to send it through a lawyer and whatever. And they get the check and they cash it and it's fine. And the claims were like, she didn't have the money to pay us because she didn't set it aside in escrow. And that's why she's trying to default on this. I'm like, I offered to give you nearly $17,000 instead of 20. What are you talking about? And it was literally like one of the most stressful periods of my life. Those first 12 months of running my business. And it wasn't just because of the pandemic. Like, that's the thing that I think was lost on a lot of people. Business owners were not just struggling with like, oh, now we have like a difficult way of running our businesses, especially those businesses which were new. We hadn't even figured out what we wanted to put our POS system in. We had it on a tripod for the first 4 weeks that we were open and hadn't figured out a system that was going to work the best for us yet. And then we have to figure out how we're going to change our service model completely to serve through a window at the back of the building. It's like, wait, but I just built this beautiful storefront. Nobody's going to see the herringbone going all the way down 30 feet of wall. That's like 8 p.m. No one's going to see any of that. No one's going to see the beautiful display case that we spent $8,000 on. And no one's going to see any of that. And instead we have a fold out table from Costco and like a Bluetooth speaker that we put outside in the window. And that's it. And that's all we can actually do at this moment. Like, it was not just one thing. And then the cost of things skyrocketing. Supply chain, being able to get product, impossible.
Just like, flour, sugar, the basics. Butter.
I could not. There were moments where you walk into Costco and you walk down the aisle and you're like, oh, you still don't have any sugar? Okay. Thanks. You can't get mad at anybody.
No.
They're doing their best. And then you see all these businesses that are reporting record-breaking profits, and you're like, the only thing that's breaking records right now is my stress level. I've gained 40 pounds. I'm like, I can't sleep at night. I'm crying myself to sleep, and my parents are on the other side of the door, just being like, everything will be okay. And I'm boo-hooing.
Yeah, the only businesses that were successful were those that were profiting off of the fact that there was a pandemic.
Yeah,
that is it.
That's it.
And I think that the Cake Box was very lucky because it had been open for so long that they were able to take advantage of the government assistance. But yeah, like you had mentioned, it wasn't just dealing with the pandemic. It was dealing with having to completely pivot the business into how can keep these people employed.
Yeah.
And we could have like laid them off and they could have just gone on to serve. They could have done that. But that's not something that I knew Vaughn and Rob wanted to do.
Because then how do you convince them to come back?
And I think that was a huge issue for a lot of people in the service industry is that, waitresses and others, chefs and things like that were now laid off and had no income. You had some CERB coming in, but it was already just, a small portion of what you were making.
Yep.
That were now opening little businesses from home and realizing, what, I actually don't want to go back and make what I was making. So a lot of people were leaving the food industry. So after, things started to reopen, there was a huge issue of staffing and trying to get people to come back. And also during the pandemic, dealing with, as I already mentioned, people canceling orders, not understanding, obviously they want a full refund. And it's like the business, if we did that and gave you a full refund on your order that is, placed for next week, the business will go into bankruptcy and we'll have the money is just, it's not there because this business is running on a month-to-month basis. So if we did that for all the customers, and a lot of the customers were very understanding, but a lot of them were like, how can you be so cruel? We're in the middle of a pandemic.
We are in the middle of a pandemic. How can you be so cruel?
And also dealing with customers that because of, the pandemic and because, we can't allow people to come into the shop without following regulations for the safety of our staff. And also I was pregnant at the time.
Sure.
we're trying to follow the safety protocols and respect for other people as well. And people coming in and yelling at us because we're we're making them wear masks. We're not making you do anything.
You don't have to. We can serve you in other ways.
We have curbside pickup.
Yep.
We could deliver to you.
Yep.
Or you could just wear a mask for 2 minutes, not even, if you insist on coming into the shop. And so there was also a change in our staffing as well at the time, because the pandemic was also opening doors as to personal beliefs, a lot of stress, a lot of confrontation between staff members that were never an issue before.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the most divisive, can't work with this person. Impossible to share space with
How
them.
dare, and it's just why? It was just so it wasn't just, but it was really an eye-opener for me as well of, how you have to constantly change your business to satisfy the needs of the community.
Yep.
And just based on the economic standing of your community at the time. If what you're doing is not, the business could have been well, we got to shut down. We can't do our custom cakes and our weddings anymore.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's all we know how to do. No, it's not. You have to be able to adapt, and you have to be able to change in order to survive.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a battle.
It is. And the wildest part is that when we opened, and I have a photo of our initial menu, it was 3 types of cookies, 1 brownie, 1 square, 2 types of meringues, 4 flavors of macarons, and cinnamon rolls.
For those that don't know, can you explain what a varin is?
Oh yeah. A varin is a dessert that's in a jar. Really. So if you imagine anything that can't stand on its own, mousse, cheesecake, kind of, panna cottas, anything that would need to be held in some sort of vessel, you can make a varin out of it. You can also make a cake jar, and that would be a type of varin, but typically a softer dessert that you would get.
They were delicious. I ordered them multiple times.
Yeah. Do we make them anymore? No. Do I want to? Yeah, I do, because I actually really love making varins. But then there was a time that we couldn't get the jars that we needed, and I just couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, you have to be able to whatever you're producing, the supplies need to be constant, and they need to be reliable. And if they're not,
What else happened during that pandemic time? Do you remember the trade war or escalation of trade? Basically, it was a trade war, tariff war that was happening between China and here. And the fact that all of our packaging was on a boat and they couldn't get it to dock, and it used to take $5,000 to clear, and now they were all of a sudden overnight, they're it's actually $20,000 to clear this. And that was our packaging, that was our jars. That's why we stopped getting varin jars, because they couldn't tell us when they would come in next. And they're and when they do come in, they're going to be about 4 times the price. And you're cool, but I didn't.
That's not what I.
That's not what I anticipated. That's actually questions.
Every time, and it's the same thing with your business. Every time prices increase, you will get customers that are why last time I ordered, last year I ordered,
same,
it was this much. Why is it? Well, honey, I don't know if you've heard of inflation, but everything that we charge for is to reflect the cost of goods, the costs of keeping people employed, cost of your rent, everything is a reflection of that price. It's not just because I'm you know what, I feel let me just charge an extra $20 for this, because for shits and gigs,
just because it's fun.
We don't want to do that to people. We don't want to have to be constantly looking at how much things cost. And during the pandemic, that's what was happening. Flour was now twice the price that it was, or
I still can't believe it.
Or suppliers just didn't even have it. And it's we had to allocate, what are we going to use this for? What is the most important? We can't just make, whatever, because I have very limited supply and resource here. So
the reality is that pandemic changed how business happens, especially for the hospitality industry, And yes, conditions in hospo were not great before. I will admit to that. That's fine. I will admit to it because I lived it, and I would never support people being mistreated in any way, shape, or form in any industry. I don't want that for you. It's not nice. It's not kind. And on the same side, we still need people who are passionate about hospitality to work in hospitality. And we need people who are skilled in hospitality to work in hospitality. And I know you might come into a bakery and say, well, all you do is put those baked goods in a box.
No, honey.
All you do is X. All you do is Y. And it was only because of the pandemic did my parents see, oh my gosh, I've never seen anybody work like that, where you have 14 things on the go. And if somebody calls you and asks you, how do I do this on the POS? And I can step you through without looking at it, step you through exactly what it is that you need to do to solve your problem. How do you remember that? Because I have no choice.
You have to. You have to.
I know it because I have no choice. I remember it because I have no choice. I'm able to do it because I have no choice, because the same customers who want to support you and deserve to have nice things are also incredibly fickle sometimes. And you don't have the opportunity to screw up too many times. Once or twice maybe. And at the end of the day, they don't care that a pandemic is happening for you, because it's happening for them too. And they're like, well, I can still do my job. Your job
emotions were running very high. Emotions were running very high, and everybody was on edge and dealing with not seeing family and not being able to do things that give them pleasure and give them joy. Everyone's feeling isolated and taking it out in the wrong places. And it definitely, I think opened our eyes to, what we can handle, like what we can deal with. So even
as like societal, what can our society handle? The amount of I don't think I've ever experienced a world as divided. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. But like for a majority of things, Freedom Convoy comes to mind.
That just made my eye twitch.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I can't walk anywhere. And if I see any vehicle that has 2 Canadian flags on it, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. I'm scared as to what this means, because you can't just be patriotic anymore. You can't just be like, yeah, I'm happy to be Canadian. We said we weren't going to talk about too much politics.
We said we weren't going to talk about. Sometimes it comes out.
But the reality is, I lost friends over the murder of George Floyd. I lost friends over the Freedom Convoy. I lost friends over the pandemic and vaccinations and whether or not you were vaxxed and having a vaccine passport. I lost friends over it, and not because I was like, stay out of my life. I was like, oh, okay, like we think very differently about this, and we are moving in different circles now. And like, I'm getting together with some people, but in order to come, you'd have to have a vaccine passport, and you're not doing that. And that's your choice and your prerogative for sure. But I'm not going to not go because I'm going to go here. So if you can't hang out with us, that like makes it tough. Do you know what I mean?
I actually have a quick story. I was delivering a wedding cake. So this was like in the summertime where they were allowing now 50 people.
That's right.
At a wedding. And like indoors, but the venue, I won't say which one because I don't want to, whatever, was requiring everyone had to have been vaccinated. So outside, like the bouncer, that's the best man or whatever. So he's like checking and everyone has to wear a mask for the part that's indoors. Like the ceremony was outdoors. And there was this man who was like, I'm refuse. She's like, you can't come in.
Yeah.
And they got into like a physical fight where they had to then push this guy away and out. I'm like, this is a family member. And I'm just like setting up this cake. I'm like watching all of this happen, and it was just one of those things. He's like, this is my niece. Yeah, I was a niece. This is my niece. How dare you not let me be here? How dare you not let me be a part of it? And they're like, we want you to be a part of it. This is why
there are requirements. And we just wanted you to do them because how do you repair that relationship?
And you can't. And like you had said, there were so many people that lost relationships, and relationships became very tense because of, I'm like, I need to protect my peace. I need to protect my life as well. And I understand this is hard. We're all going through this, so we just wanted to talk about what it was like on a business end, and also as a lesson for moving forward, that things happen. For Lenore, a lot happened. I'm just like, I'm pregnant.
Well, you still had a baby in a pandemic.
I did have a baby in a pandemic.
In that fall, were you allowed to have Mike in the room with you?
I was allowed to have Mike in the room with me, but
could you have your mom?
I could not have my mom.
Yeah.
I couldn't have my mom.
Your sisters.
Yeah, nobody was allowed in but Mike. And even for all my appointments, so my ultrasounds, my doctor, Mike couldn't come to any of those.
You had to be alone. Me.
Even when I was walking, we walked into the hospital, he was allowed to walk me to the entrance, but then I had to then waddle my butt. But thankfully the nurse did come with a wheelchair, but I had to then go all the way up to the nursing department by myself and then lay in that bed while I was being assessed, because first they need to check you to see if they're actually going to admit you. Yeah. And actually, like this, you know, I had no idea what contractions really were. We actually went 3 times because I'm like, I think it's time. And they're like, no, go back home, walk, you know, like bounce on a ball. You're not ready yet. So 3 times, but the 3rd time, and then I was laying there, and as I was laying in the bed, my water then broke. So I was dealing with that, and then I was just laying there in pain. And then eventually the nurse was like, okay, we'll admit you. So she put me in the hospital room. But Mike was waiting outside for almost an hour and a half before he was able to be with me again, because they're like, we're not going to bring him in here if it's not necessary for him to be here. So they had to do all those steps. And then again, now I have this newborn baby, and we weren't allowed to, you know, my family came over and we were still all very safe and visited with the baby, but I couldn't share in my joy like I wanted to. This is not how I wanted to spend my maternity leave. So also
locked up inside,
like I was like, oh, I'm going to take my baby to, you know, these mommy and me things, and I'm gonna, you know, do all of that. And I'm just like, okay, you want to go for a walk for the 10th time today, because it's all we can do. So that was quite isolating as well. But yeah, I just, like, once I went back to work, with like a vengeance. I was like, I am ready.
I've been away from people for so long.
I've been away from so long, and I'm just ready to do this and just like put my all into it. And I just went in with like a whole new, like, bigger and just excitement just to be out of the pandemic and back to work.
Yeah. So. And especially because you knew that you'd be taking over. You were like, let me learn everything. Like, figure everything out. Tell me everything. If we survive this, we can survive
anything. And also just learn, like, how they ran the business at all is not at all how I wanted to do it. So like everything was changing in a very short period of time. So. Yeah, it's crazy.
I think it's like one of the, you know, people, for some people are like, yeah, the pandemic break, you know, that time off that we had, you know, the 6 months of the lockdown. I'm like, I wouldn't know anything about that. I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah,
I had not worked harder in a very long time. In a very long time. Whilst, though, you know, the last time I worked that hard, I was working in a Michelin star restaurant, and that was one thing. But the rest of my life was pretty sane. When I went to the grocery store, it was open and I can get food. I didn't have to stand in line, and gas was easily available, and, you know, I could see people when I wanted to. That was different. Yes, I was working 100 hours a week. Now I was working 100 hours a week, and I couldn't see anybody, and I couldn't do anything, and I couldn't go anywhere, and I was just sitting on a basement, and I'm also trying to teach, and I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not losing money hand over fist. I'm trying to do. And like, there was a time where I could not, this construction company is located in town, and I could not drive down the very main street that they are located on, because I would like get a panic attack just driving by the building. And it's just like, and now I drive by the building and I'm just like, ugh, trash. You know what I mean? And it's fine.
It took time to heal that.
Now I can just like outside hate them, right? Yeah. I'll still never say their name because I don't think that they deserve it. I just really hope that T&J are doing, oh no, that's a seafood company that we use, and they're lovely. I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about them. This is not about the seafood place. I'm just hoping that those 2 people, both the husband who's the president of the company, who sent his wife to throw a check back in my face,
good job, buddy,
stick her middle fingers up at me like a completely mature adult. I just hope that they don't have kids that would ever experience someone treating them the way that I was treated by them, or close relatives or people that they care about. I hope no one that they care about will ever have to experience what they did to me, chose to do to me, just because they thought that they could take advantage of like a young girl who's starting out in business on their own. Like, when I started, I was 28.
And I know that the reason too that they took advantage of you, especially because they knew that you weren't in country, to be there to make sure that they were doing
They
their
told me
job.
it was my responsibility to make sure that they were on target.
I'm sorry.
It's
I
my
don't
job
tell
to
a
make
customer,
sure you
oh,
show
you
up
didn't
to
call
work.
me every day
Oh
to
my
make sure that I was
God.
making your cake.
Yeah, right?
I'm sorry. That is your job, sir.
I thought it was the
I hope
wildest
they
thing.
go into bankruptcy.
I honestly hope that they'll go into bankruptcy as well, but like they have too many real estate holdings around the city, unfortunately, that just keep acquiring in value. So they won't go out of business. I do sometimes wish they get hit by a car. Not harmed. I don't want them to die.
Enough that like they break, what's this major bone right here?
A femur's going to cause them to die. They're going to be old.
No, like I don't want them to die, but that's like one of the most painful bones that you can break. So break that one and you just have a really slow healing, a lot of rehab that's not covered by any kind of benefits that you have. So you constantly have to then,
Screaming.
and then every time it's like cold out, like the weather changes, you feel it in your bones.
Be like, oh, this is payback for that one time we made that one girl's already hard
every
2020
time,
worse.
every time, like, yeah. And then you have to move to like a warmer climate, but you can't afford it. I wish that for you.
Oh, yeah. The pandemic was a terrible time.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about operating a business. I learned a lot about the kinds of friends that would be around to support you when times were real terrible. Because like people couldn't grasp it. The people who are at home on CERB living their best life or working from home.
Or working from home.
Nothing changed for them except the location of their work and their, full lives, full income, can do whatever they want. Not understanding like what it's like to be like, can I go one more day? One more week? Do I have the things that I need to make tomorrow? Like the stress of it. They would never understand, could never understand. I could explain it a million ways and they still wouldn't get it. And like that caused me to lose friends too. It's hard. It's really, really, really hard to navigate a huge global situation whilst at the same time being a small business owner, being a new small business owner at that, trying to figure out how to pivot, how to change, how to do whatever you need to do. And you're also a human being. Like the fear of bringing home an illness that's going to kill your parents knowing that it would only be you because they're not going anywhere. Holy Hector, how heavy. To be sleeping on a couch. I slept on a couch for months. I slept on a couch for months in the basement downstairs because I was like, don't come down here. There's a bathroom down here and it's a separate door entrance down here and whatever. I have a living room. And when I'm not home, you can open the door and put like food on the stairs for me and I will come and eat it.
Oh my God.
Yep. That's what we were doing. What was the other option?
Yeah.
What was the other option? I thought I was going to kill my parents. Right. And it's like, that's just, and I'm sure the craziest part, I'm sure that my story is not the worst one. I'm sure that other people were dealing with other things, separation of marriages, breaking up of families after spending that much time together, people who were in like abusive homes and situations and then they
couldn't leave,
locked in the houses with their abusers.
Escape.
I mean, it really was a life-changing thing, and I think a lot of people have been changed because of it. And honestly, it wasn't until like this year, like 2024, that I was like, what I've experienced for the last 4 years was crazy. No human should have been forced into that situation. Like it took me a really long time. I think I cried about the whole lawsuit, making it through the pandemic, did it like this year, like finally came to reckon with like what I've gone through for the past. It's not normal. It's abnormal amount of stress and like abnormal, just everything abnormal. Should not have had to deal with that, bear with that, try to figure that, like it was too much. It was too much all at one time. And I've just been holding it.
Yeah.
And finally for the first time, like put it down. Put it down. And people are like, oh my gosh, now you're making so many changes with your business. Yeah, for the first time because I want to, not because I'm forced to.
Because this is what I actually wanted to do. We were doing that.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that were like, will you deliver 6 cupcakes? And I said, no. But you did. Yeah, to survive.
Thought I had no choice.
But I'm not just trying to survive. I'm existing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to run a business. This is what we did, and I know this can be a dark subject and some people don't like to talk about it anymore, but I think it's more of just about, again, the lessons that can be learned from it as well. Yeah. And also knowing, where Lenore and I have come from and what we've been through,
we walked to school uphill both ways in the snow 20 feet deep.
But there are things like, especially starting your own business and doing your own business, of things that can happen, things that you are not expecting at all to happen, that you have to deal with. And so we're just sharing our experiences as well, so that we can try and help people to prepare. And
there is another side. We're here, it'll be 5 years next year.
That's crazy.
Half a decade later, and like we're still here.
Yeah,
we haven't gone anywhere. We haven't left the industry like many of our friends and former colleagues. We are still here, still managing to do what it is that we love. It looks a little different now, and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful. I'm glad we make time for this podcast. Yes. Choose to put ourselves in the shit for the rest of the week.
I literally just got a message from my worker saying the large mixer stopped working.
Oh my God! Did you close the?
I know.
Did you close the guard?
I'm gonna like troubleshoot that on the way back.
Did you close?
But she's actually really good. Her family works in like large appliance. Like they own a large appliance. So she's like, "Do you want me to call my brother to look in?" I'm like, potentially.
Is the guard closed? If you're creaming butter and the butter was a little bit too cold, sometimes the force can throw open the guard even by a millimeter.
Hit the reset? Let's talk about these things. But but she's pretty smart. So but anyway, and Lenore has a meeting, but we make time for this, and we hope that people are enjoying listening to us talk. I enjoy listening to us talk.
Because we're giving space for ourselves.
It really is. Yeah.
I like that for us. We deserve it.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is definitely like a healing thing for us as well, to be able to share our stories and put them in a podcast for people.
And I don't know about you, but I'm not a journaler. I don't have time.
No, I am jealous of people that like every time I had a journal, I would write 2 sentences and be like, I literally did. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to write it down. My hand hurts.
But talking about it on a podcast, we can do this. So thank you for coming to our therapy sessions.
Yes, thank you.
We don't pay you and you don't pay us, so it's fine. Until our next episode, friends, we're off to bake our dreams into reality. Join a meeting 10 minutes late. Success is in the icing on the cake. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
That's so funny because I definitely sent out this meeting. Thanks for listening to this episode of Bakes in a Box.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Have any questions or want us to talk about a specific topic, baking, business, or life? Send us an email at bakesinaboxpod@gmail.com.
Find these details and more in today's show notes.